In the previous video, we created our first HTML web page using Notepad. Now, although Notepad does the job, web developers don't generally like to use it because it's very inefficient. So as you would have seen, we had to type this markup manually, and this is just a standard HTML markup. It has to be used on every page. So you can imagine if you're writing this every time, it's going to get very tedious and you're prone to making errors when you're typing your code. So for instance, I could have one H instead of a H1, which is not valid, and I could also miss out this paragraph tag here. So if I go ahead and save this and view this in my browser, I can see that first of all, the hello world hasn't rendered properly because I've got an error there. I shouldn't see this tag, and I don't even know that I've missed out the closing paragraph because it looks valid. So as you can see, it's very inefficient. We have to repeat writing code and we're prone to typing errors, so it takes a very long time to develop. Now, to overcome this, web developers like to use more sophisticated text editors, and we're going to take a look at some examples in just a moment. So let me go ahead and fix these two, save that, and we've got the correct file again. Now, an option that some web developers like to use is Notepad++, which is a free software. Another free software is JEdit, and the one that we prefer to use is Sublime Text, and at the moment they have version 3, which is in a beta mode. So you can go ahead and download this for your operating system. You do have to purchase a license if you're going to use this for a long period of time, but if you're just evaluating the software, then you can feel free to use that. So when you download that from sublimetext.com, you'll see a program that looks like this. Now, your version will have unregistered when you first install it, but because I've purchased a license, mine doesn't say unregistered. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to install some more programs inside of Sublime Text, and we're going to use Sublime Text throughout this course because it will help speed up development, and it's really good practice to use a sophisticated text editor like Sublime and the particular package that we're going to install, which is called Emmet. So if I head over to the internet and I go to the Emmet web page, it's described as the essential toolkit for web developers. So as I mentioned before, rather than having to write this code manually, a program like Emmet can type this code for me. So I can create shortcuts or type shortcuts, and Emmet will do all the hard work for me. So I know that I've got accurate code and there's no typos in there, and it takes me quicker than half of the time to build a website. So let's go ahead and install this. The first thing that we need to do though is install package control. So package control is a Sublime Text add-in which allows you to install and uninstall other packages within Sublime. So go over to packagecontrol.io, click on the installation tab, and then copy all of this code under Sublime Text 3, and we are going to paste it within Sublime in View and Show Console, and then in this small box here we'll paste that in. So give that a few seconds to install. When you press enter, it may ask you to restart Sublime just to finish installing, which it has done here. So I can close this and open it up again, and now I know that if I go onto preferences I can see package control. So to install Emmet, go over to preferences and click on package control, and you'll come up with this list. Type install package and then click on that option, and then this list appears. Now this list is a full list of packages that are available to install, but for now we're just going to focus on Emmet. So type in Emmet, click on that, and you'll see that it installs on the bottom left here. It's just finishing installing now. And there we are. Now to apply, or to see this in action rather, if we open up that previous file that we had, so we go to File and Open File, we can open up our index.html file, which is in our mywebsite.com directory, and we can see that we've got something that looks a little bit nicer than what it did in Notepad. We can easily see the tag names because they're pink, and we've got the angle brackets in white around them. So let's go ahead and delete this. Now we can actually create that code in over half the time, all you have to do is press exclamation mark on your keyboard and then press tab, and that's created our HTML5 document markup. Now what I like to do is I like to indent everything from the head to the closing body, and I'll explain that in the coming videos. And let's just take a quick look at what the differences are between the version that we created and this new HTML5 document markup. So you can see the very top line is doctype HTML with an exclamation mark. This tells the web browser that we're going to be using the latest HTML5 markup. Next we have a language attribute here, and that's set to English. If you have a different language for your website, then you can put the different country code in here. And we also have a meta character set here, which we set to UTF-8. If you remember from the previous video, we actually set that manually when we saved our file. So they're the key differences, and this is just a very basic HTML5 markup, which we created just by pressing exclamation mark and tab. Now if we wanted to create that H1 tag again, we could just type H1, press tab, and we've got that there. So I can type in hello world in the middle. Underneath that I can do P and press tab, and I've got my paragraph tags, and I'll put in some dummy code there by typing lorem and then pressing tab. I could even add an unordered list. Underneath this I've got another list item and a hyperlink. Don't worry about this now, I'm just showing you as an example of how quickly it is to generate this markup just by pressing the keyboard, pressing the tag name and pressing tab. So really easy to install. Now if I go and look at that in my browser, go back to my website, refresh the page, I can see that that has rendered just perfectly, and I've had to do minimal work and I've got a really nice output. So I've saved time and I've not made any errors, so that's good. Now I'm just going to install the material theme, which is going to make this look a lot nicer. So to do that I need to go over to preferences and package control, and then I need to install a package, and then I need to type in the material theme. Click on that, give it a few seconds to install. You can see the progress on the bottom left, and when that's done it will come up with a confirmation screen where we can take the code to apply this. So if we just give that a moment, it's nearly done. Now what we need to do is we need to copy these two lines of code here, and this will enable the theme. So go to preferences and user. Now on the second line, if we just drop this down a moment and paste that in, let's just tidy it up a bit here, and when we click on save we can see that it has changed the theme. Now I'm also going to add some other settings. So for instance I'm going to change the font size just to make it easy for you to read. So font underscore size colon, and then I'm going to set it to 14 and end that with a comma. I'm also going to highlight the lines so it's easier for you to see which line I'm currently on. So highlight line and set that to true. So when I click save you'll see that the line is now highlighted in a darker shade of blue, and I've got the font size there. And I'm just going to add some space as well. So if I do line padding bottom, set that to 3 and save that, I've now got some extra space. I may even do this for the top as well, so line padding top, set that to 3, and that adds a bit more padding. So these particular settings, if you want to apply them as well, it just makes things easier to see. And as I said, we're going to be use this going forward. So if you want to do this you can, you don't have to do any of this, but I find that Sublime Text with the material theme and Emmet are really good packages to install, because it really helps to keep some kind of consistency while building and having less errors, as I've said. So go ahead and do this, and we'll see you in the next part.